Got here a Sony portable video cassette recorder, SLF1E. It's PAL, takes better tapes, and it's got some interesting stuff on the front here. Various slow search things. And it's a portable VCR that can have a camera connected into it. It's got a 14-pin plug. And today we're going to have a look at the camera that plugs into there. It's a Trinicon. Comes in this fancy box. Clips. And authentic 80s smell. Look at this. It's got a remote connector, a removable, detachable viewfinder, some kind of little microphone thing there. And then there's some controls on this side. So this is a Sony HVC-3000P. Maybe the lens can be removed, I'm not sure. Got a zoom lens, power zoom, and focus. Probably manual focus. And manual white balance. You choose the zone of color temperature with the switch, which sounds like it's adjusting some filters inside the lens there. And then you can fine tune it with this blue to red adjustment. And there's some controls on the viewfinder there. Indicator WB, white balance, waveform or iris. And you can put peaking on and off. And there's a brightness control. There's sensitivity, auto high low. And then there's an iris. It looks like you pull it out if you want to manually change it, or you push it in for auto according to those symbols there. And then on the back there's a sound LED, earpiece, or I don't know, what does that do? It says earpiece, mic, or VTR. So I guess that can be an in or an out maybe. And there's a sharpness, higher or lower or middle, a fader. Don't aim it at the sun. And I'm pretty sure this doesn't work. The VCR I have with it does not work and never has worked. We'll take a look at that VCR another time. Today we'll take apart this camera. So that's the 14-pin connector that Sony cameras have. Now that VCR is not the only one I've got that can take this 14-pin plug. Let's look at another VCR that takes this same connector. And so we're in the VCR room. And up here, got a Sony SLC9E, and if we open up that slot, we can see there is a connector for this camera. So you can plug the camera into standard tabletop VCRs, which is quite interesting and unusual. I found the service manual for this camera, so let's have a little look through that. So it says there 2/3 inch EMF Trinicon tube. Really sure what EMF stands for. Combined zoom lens, PAL 625 lines, internal only sync, microphone jack, viewfinder, 1.5 inch monochrome picture tube, 12 volts from the VCR, 8.3 watts power consumption. 2.4 kilograms. Oh, but then you gotta add another 0.5 for the viewfinder. Accessories and supplied accessories. You can get extension cords for the camera cable, and then they show you hooking it up. Or you can get an adapter that joins it to your VCR that isn't fancy enough to have the 14-pin plug on it. External microphones. Oh, so there is another microphone socket there. Oh, so that there selects. I see, so that earpiece thing. So you plug an earpiece in there and it can be either monitoring the microphone directly or what's coming back from the VCR. I guess that's, and that must flicker to show you that there's sound, I guess. Okay, that's interesting. We could just read the instructions. Look, lights when the power is supplied to the camera and blinks when sound is picked up. Alright, so it's a combined power and audio activity indicator fader set on to fade the picture and sound in or out. And now we get a sneak peek of what's inside it and how to take it apart. Imagine that, reading the disassembly instructions before we start doing it. Better just skim over that. So there's a block diagram of how that camera works. Oh, so there's the plug for the pickup tube. The sync generator, DC to DC converters. Oh, the remote connector, that thing there. Something to do with the pickup tube, is it? Oh yeah, that's all the high voltage stuff. Oh yeah, wires around there. Picks up all the different voltages off the flyback transformer. 14 pin connector. Okay, we can have a look at the pinout of that. Viewfinder connector. Okay, that must be that. It's got a central locating pin. So that takes, got 5.1 volts, 8.5 volts, viewfinder video, unlabeled whatever that signal is. LLA APC. Oh, so that'll be some stuff for the indicator, I guess. Don't know what the other one is. Goes across there. Oh, iris indicator. Okay, so that signals 3 different signals, which are the 3 that you can choose there: iris, waveform, and white balance. So the circuit to display the mark on the viewfinder picture must be in the viewfinder itself. Alright, camera connector, 14 pin, so it's got video out, ground video in, feedback back from the VCR to display it in the viewfinder. Yes, and there's a switch there to choose whether it's the camera video or the VCR video. Start stop for recording from the button. Tele signal coming back from the VCR so it knows when it's running or not. Audio out, left and right presumably. Ground audio in, left and right. 12 volts ground. Presumably newer versions of that will have some serial data for controlling the VCR from the camera. Yeah, like the Panasonic 10-pin one does. Okay, so there's also a lock switch there. Lock, and it prevents you from pushing that. It's just a mechanical thing. This looks like the viewfinder. Oh, those things are just LEDs, are they? Some things are low light, tape run, and battery. Oh yeah, the tail lights on the front there. Actual indicator. Must be that. Oh no, the mirror's cracked in there. And there's 2 LEDs in the bottom there. So as well as that, there's this indicator switch. There's a gate and a comparator, so we can put the mark in over the top of the video signal. Deflection coils, high voltage stuff. PCB layouts, nice looking hand-drawn stuff. All the pins, details. Interesting they give you the numbers for all of the pins rather than just saying that's 1 and that's 8. Count them all off. And then all the actual schematics. Look at that with waveforms shown in red. So you can see what you would see on those positions. Boards and exploded view. Oh yeah, there's the viewfinder schematic. I wonder if that uses the same sort of chip. Probably that HA11244. Is that the same as what we saw in the other viewfinders? Thing that does all the sync separation and drives the deflection coils all in one chip. Okay, enough of looking at that. Let's take it apart and see it for real. Viewfinder comes off, it slides there, and then there's also this slides. And I want to see if that lens comes off. It looks like that is some kind of lens mount thread. No, I think it's just part of the housing because it lifts up. Alright, let's dig into this. And we might need to get a smaller screwdriver for a lot of these screws. And this camera came with that VCR we saw at the beginning, and yeah, the VCR doesn't work. And I've never seen this power up from it. The VCR we saw in the VCR room, the tabletop style VCR, that doesn't work either, so we can't test the camera through that. Sony reliability, or lack of. Okay. Look at that, it's exposed a regulator with wires poked onto it. Well, there'll be a transistor, Hitachi actual logo there, made in Japan. We'll get a small screwdriver to take these side panels off these little screws. Okay, that fits perfectly. 0 JIS. These ones are 1. Good. Screws are corroded in position. Wonder if this has been dipped in the sea. It's a bit corroded and rusty here. How long have I had this camera? Since 2008 maybe? 7 or 8? Maybe earlier? Don't know. Long time. Don't think I've ever taken it apart. And there's a screw missing there. Huh. It's sheared off completely and there's no... It's like it's filled in the screw hole. Wonder if it was so corroded in place that it just broke off. Don't know. I think this handle is part of the cast chassis. Oh, that one's broken off there. Anyway, we can get that off. Shows the back side of a board. And for this side, we have to take some more screws out. Another back side of a board. Okay, we'll undo these screws. It's nice there's designators on the back sides of the boards, so that if you're probing it, you can see what the ICs are, and they've numbered it there. In an interesting format, 13, 16, 19, 24. Some bodge wires on there. Genuine bodges. Oh, look at all that. Oh, there's more rust in there. Great. Looks like it uses the Molex KK style connectors. That's nice. And then they're numbered so that you can know. CN23, it's got 23 printed on it. That's great. Let's take off the side. Might have a go at seeing if we can get the portable VCR to work that has issues. And I have had a go at it a long time ago when I first got it without success. And we can have another go. Well, we can see the back end of the pickup tube now. The other end of that rusty box, which is not rusty. We might as well pull all this stuff out so we can have a good look at it. We can get this thing off. Okay. Oh, that just takes off a plastic piece. Oh, then it reveals the screws. That one's fully rusty. Guess we should have a look at the state of the capacitors in this thing and see if there's any point in trying to get it working or not, or are they all wrecked? What was the date of this? 83? Something like that. I wonder if there's anything in that part. Be some sort of motor for driving the zoom. Rusty metal box. Be some sort of power supply. I wonder if that's rusty from capacitors leaking in it. Does that plastic thing slide off? Slides off with the rust. Can we open this and see what goodies are inside? It's taped together. You can see the tape is pulled back, shrunk. Oh, it's not power supplies. Or maybe that's that sync generator thing. I guess we can look. Is it all just one schematic page of everything on it? Okay, so it's this thing here is the C7P board. C7P board, that there. Let's see the shape of it. So let's see what is that on the schematic. C7P. Okay, that's that thing there. It's the sync generator. It said internal sync only, didn't it? So this thing here will be... Oh yeah, we can see the waveforms of it. All the different pulses. Is there any clear description of them? Penetrators to get the wires through. Alt, HD, VD, BF, and BLK. And sync. Blanking. Sync. Don't know if that was a waveform. There's horizontal drive, vertical drive. VD, so it's at the vertical rate, and that's talking about the horizontal rate, HD and BF. Alright, that's good. That's a little sync generator thing. I wonder if that works. Doesn't have any electrolytics in it, which is a good sign. It's got quite rust though. And it's bent now because of whatever's holding it shut. Oh, I think it's soldered shut on that side. Alright, sync generator. Okay, we'll see if we can get off this. Okay, there's another box in the bottom there. It's a pretty well populated board there for those near those switches. And we can see where the camera cable comes in at the bottom there, and then that splits off to 3 connectors. Looks like the power on that one, and then the other one goes, other bits go to the other side. Oh, and then another one, oh yeah, goes down the bottom there. Okay, pretty involved. If we can peel that out, just to get that out of the way. Oh, and there's one more wire with no connector on it, going all the way somewhere into the back, so we can't get that out of the way. That's a bit annoying. Okay, that means we'll have to open up this side to see where that yellow wire goes off to. Is there a screw in there? Yes. It's a little foot thing. Standoff foot thing. Does it come off? No, it doesn't come off. Maybe we have to take this strap thing off as well. Okay. Nice. Wow, look at that. There's all sorts of more stuff in here. Now that yellow wire, that one there. Oh look, unplugs there. Wow. I wonder what that was. Guess it would be the switch in here. No, because look at that. That goes all the way over there. All the way down to that board. Doesn't say there what it does. Interesting. There's another switch there which I'm not sure. Is that record review? That's probably what it would be in Panasonic machines. Doesn't seem to say in the manual what that button does. That's weird. It's not even shown. That button's not in the picture. See? It's not there on that. Not there on that either. And then in the arrows pointing stuff, they're not pointing to it there. And they don't point it out there either. That's weird. So there's an undocumented feature. Maybe it doesn't do anything. Well, we'll see if it's wired up to something. Definitely looks like a button for something. And the screw's gone down in there now. A lot of metal in this. Very solid. What's holding that in? Appears to be the wires to the motor, which is that connector there. So that's the zoom motor. Oh, uses a little belt that's wrecked. And that will be the iris little servo thing. Ah, look at that. Whoa, there's a rod. Get that out of the way now that we've disconnected that. A lot of dust and crust has come out of this. Look at that, there's a linkage from... That's the coarse white balance setting knob. Oh yes, it turns that little cam thing around and it pushes on that bar, and then that flaps the little color filter thing in front of the path of the picture. Look at these knobs come off. Yes, they come off. Everything comes off. Pull it hard enough. Okay, that wasn't attached anymore. There's that screw we lost. Okay, connected to the viewfinder. And then the audio stuff. Little microphone. Guess it had a fluffy thing on it at one stage, but that's fluffed itself away. Now what is this business? Some unpopulated stuff there. It's even got the solder mask over the pads. I guess that's very optional. There's a resistor river. There's a common at one end and then a bunch of parts that are common to the top piece. Make the circuit board layout a bit nicer. Look at that, there's a little tiny choke thing with some turns around it. Common mode choke. That's really interesting. Little tiny common mode choke thing. Oh, I think we can just take this all out as one piece. Oh yeah, do you have to peel up that plate. Yeah, there's a screw under that. Oh well. And it's a little common mode choke there, which is connected in line with the motor. It's very weird stiff wire for that. Yeah, look at that little thing. So interesting, little tiny core with 2 windings on it, and then the ones at this end go to that little 2-pin connector there. Although there's pads for 3 pins, but they're just common. Goes to that choke, and then the other end goes off to these transistors. So that makes a little bridge. I guess that's a whole H bridge there for transistors, and then that will be controlled by these switches to provide the power zoom function. So what is this other stuff doing? That board also connects to that remote control connector. I guess you can have remote power zoom then. Yeah, all the pins of that go up to that board. And then those through there from the zoom switch, and then those come from the other main boards to do with power. And yeah, interesting that remote control switch only goes to that board. Suppose we could look that up in the schematic, couldn't we? That thing in the bottom there must be some kind of power supply, I guess. Or maybe that's the audio circuit, since it comes straight off that microphone connector. Although that there might be audio stuff, because that also comes with a shielded cable off of the microphone connector. Maybe that's a smooth power supply for the microphone. And then that there, which does have a single inline op-amp looking thing. Maybe that's the microphone preamp there. And then there's this red shielded wire which goes down to the main board, down to near where the connector came off that one to go to the VCR. So yeah, I think that must be what's going on there. I suppose we could confirm it by looking at the schematic, but I think I have a different version camera to this manual that we're looking at, because I don't have C13. I don't have C13, instead I got C19, and it has extra stuff on it. That shows only having a 4-pin connector, which goes over to C16, which as we thought was the microphone preamp. And we can also see there C9, which was this one here, which has the H bridge for the power zoom. You can see there, H bridge of the transistors, common mode choke, out to the motor. But yeah, they show C13 as being where the microphone is, but that's not what we have here. We have a C19, which isn't mentioned in the manual, and this C19's got this extra cable coming off, which goes into this sealed module in the bottom, which I can't pull out because it's wedged in by this other thing. And the other cable coming off that module goes into a thing called CN4, which is shown on the schematic, but it goes to other places. CN4 is here, but it's shown as going to other boards which aren't, as far as I can tell, aren't the one that I'm looking for, which is that sealed module in the bottom. So that's interesting, I guess. Yeah, there's been changes. Don't know which is better, is this newer or is what's shown in the manual newer, where they've removed this stuff. Presumably that's the power regulator. I guess I thought it would be power for the microphone. I don't know if we can get that out by undoing this. It's going to need something more than that to undo it. It's probably corroded itself up. Problem is the microphone wires. Oh, it's got nothing to do with the microphone. That wire there that comes off that thing goes... Yeah, this shows there's unpopulated pins, but the actual pads there just go to a brown and a red wire, which then go onto the viewfinder connector board. Okay, so there must be an extra function in the viewfinder. Okay, how can we work out what pin numbers those are? It's the 2 around that keying notch. So in the manual, do they show? Oh, they do. Okay, they have got that there. You see, they've got the pins. It's the two on either side of that, so it's a ground and an 8.5 volts, which I'm guessing would come from there. Okay, well that makes sense. That does directly come from there, because you see that's in parallel with two of the wires that go to CN4, so that does make sense. Okay, so for some reason they just jumped that through the microphone board, which isn't shown on mine, but there's this extra one wire there, so presumably that's another power regulator, so that goes to a third pin on CN4. Oh, I guess, yeah, it is shown on the schematic. It's this thing here at the bottom. I think I've confused that with another one that's related to the pickup tube, which must be over here, where the pickup comes off the tube, wherever that is. Anyway, that's what that is. It's a detector driver something or other, a reference temp comp gate switching 8.5 volt adjust. Yes, it's a power supply. What to what though? 8.5 volts on one, and what's that on the other pin? Guess it will be the 12 volts. Comes in, goes around there. Yeah, 12 volts. Okay, so that's the 8.5 volt regulator. That's 8.5 volt regulator. It's just, yeah, we worked it out. Yeah, so I thought that thing in the bottom corner of the schematic was that box, which the C1 board, well, it's made by Elna. These other boards, I was looking on them to see if there was a manufacturer name. Get that. It's a little symbol there with 4 dots. SC495. Oh, that box is soldered shut, so we won't be able to easily look in that. There's some more stuff here. I'll just take that off just for fun to see what's going on under there. Gonna mess up all that white balance thing, isn't it? Or maybe that's got the deflection. There'll be deflection coils. Oh, what is that? There's a little thing there pushed against the... Oh, that's probably an NTC or PTC temperature sensing thing, I guess. Possibly to sense if the deflection is stopped and got stuck. It's burning the coils. Can't see it because it's wrapped around another wire. Yeah, some sort of temperature sensing thing. Gets squished onto the side of the deflection part of the tube. Oh no, there's a long spring that got stretched out. I don't think it got damaged, it just got... Oh, look at that interesting thing. So that has that cam thing which adjusts that color filter, but it's otherwise a flat leaf switch kind of thing. So it does stuff. Well, it'll be adjusting the ratio of the colored different signals that make up the video. And then there's other things that just manually wired pots. Oh yes, and that's another pot, and then it's got a switch in the back of it. There's a sort of branding there, MSDK. Okay. And then can we take this apart to look at the tube? I'm not really sure whether I want to destroy this camera completely or not. We might have already done it. Let's have a look at some capacitors. Looks like the Nippon Chemicon. The little shield logo on them. Those are Panasonic. The M logo. Interesting that they're different. What is this? More Panasonic. And Chemicon. Doesn't look like they're leaking much. It's all still put backable. Put that on so it doesn't mess up those wires going to the microphone. Yeah, so can we see what this pickup thing's doing? I don't think so because it's soldered in place there. And the tube itself, we won't be able to get that off unless we can get this part off, because the pickup there will be going to the tube. Oh well, that's a shame. It's stuck on. We'd have to get serious to remove that. Alright, the last thing what we'll do is we'll unscrew the lens with these screws around the end here, and we'll see what that brings us. Oh, it might not bring us anything. I can't even get to that one, unfortunately. Yeah, this screwdriver is just munting the screw, even though it feels like a very solid fit. Yeah, there's a lot of these screws around here. I don't think we're going to get to them. No, that one undoes. This one, though, does not want to undo. Yeah, it does. But the problem is that one, I can't get to it because I need a longer screwdriver of size 1. What do you know is a 1? It is a longer 1. It still doesn't reach though because that stud is in the way. Yeah, just munted it. Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, so we won't be able to undo this because there's too much stuff in the way. Maybe it comes off some other... How would they have got that in? Because, that's completely blocked by stuff. And that's completely blocked by stuff as well. Okay, we can't take that apart because I can't access the screws. And I can't tell what would that undo anyway. Nothing's become slightly loose since I undid 2 of the 4 screws. It's all still very rigidly attached. There's something under here. I think it's just a cover over some bits of the mechanics of the lens. A sonopator. That's what that says. Sonopator. I don't think taking that out is much help either, because now that's just free, but it's... Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, well that's the focus. Yeah, wrecked it now. What is keeping that on? Oh, I see. You have to take the zoom motor off because the cogs of it is pushing down into the lens. The little belt is stuck in that position. Okay, so now that will lift off. Yeah, so we can see into the zoom lens. Should be a proper TV zoom lens where the focal length stays the same. Okay, so that pulls on that piece there to adjust the focus. Oh, that's the macro. You see it stops moving this main part. And what we're doing is moving just the back bit inside there, back and forth to adjust the close distance focus. You can see it deep inside there moving to the end of the zoom range. So that's the macro when it goes into that part. Okay, great. There's the color filter for the white balance. You can see it in there where it ends up inside there. Yeah, look at that. All the threads that make up the focus. It's not just one thread, it's a whole bunch of them all carefully machined onto there. And it seems like that's not very easy to get back on. There you go. Great, well there's an HV-3000P camera. Trinicon Sony color video camera, which is now a little bit worse for wear, but I don't think it worked in the first place. So perhaps next we'll take a look at the VCR that goes with this camera, see what that's got going on inside it, and whether we can get it working or not. If we can get the VCR working, then maybe I'll try putting this back together. Let's just take the tube out, come on. Can't leave with the job half done, can we? We've got to take the tube out. Even though it's going to be wrecked after this, we're supposed to be documenting this for generations to come. So we got to do the job properly. Oh, that's spring loaded. Oh, it must be for racking the tube back and forward. I see, to do with this thing here. And another piece on the other side. Is there, maybe? That, I think. Now, the problem is it's going to rip off the wires that connect to the target. Unless there's a connector in there, which I don't think there is. Nope, oh, there you go. There are two targets. Ah, okay, so here we got a Trinicon tube. Unplug the socket, and then there's deflection. One wire there, and then two others. Oh, that's a weird arrangement, isn't it? Oh no, that's another thing I just unplugged. The little temperature sensor thing went onto there, and these two wires go to over here, an orange connector. A slightly different styled connector. Okay, here's the picture tube. Pick-up tube. Trinicon MFCT2133, made in Japan. So it seems to have two targets coming off of it, which is interesting. Yeah, it's also gone a bit bad in there. You can see the clouding on the IR filter. Oh, look at that, we can't get it out. That piece just fell off. So that's all deflection coils in there, and then that's the actual tube. It's got a really weird pattern down it. It's all handwritten on, it's not printed. Yes, the IR filter is not too bad, but it is going a bit cloudy, so that will make the picture a little bit soft. And there's something going up on that thing as well. Two target connections, but they're on the glass, not on the edge like what we've seen in the other tubes. So that's interesting, and that's never going to work again. A little track in there where the wire goes. Wow, who would have thought? Okay, there's the pickup tube from this camera, the Trinicon tube, and the deflection coils will be inside that. The wiring of them is strange because it's only got 3 coming out, although there is a ground, but that's probably just a shield. So I wonder if it's a center tapped winding or it's each X and Y to ground maybe? Not sure, there's 2 things that look kind of like screws in the back there. They're well fused into place. Anyway, there we go, that's the Trinicon. Hang on a minute, we forgot to look in the viewfinder, let's do that. Can't leave the viewfinder out. Rusty screw. And other screws are on the top, which is unusual. They're normally kept hidden. Okay, looks like it opens all the way down to this part. No, that does not want to lift off. Perhaps we have to take this off first. Okay. The eyepiece assembly must have to come off before their main casing can open. Oh, it's clipped together as well. Okay, there's a broken mirror. I wonder why or when that broke. Okay. You can see the front of the tube there. It's got some kind of symbol things. Is that printed on the glass of the tube? Oh, look at that, there's boards down in there. Oh, and they tell you it's a 40CB4. That sounds like ones that we've used, or ones that we've come across before, doesn't it? Like what you'd see on the professional cameras. It's exciting. Look at that, it's a whole little thing. Okay, so the whole tube rotates like what we've seen before. So all the cables must be under there. I wonder if that unplugs. It does. Look at that, there's a good inductor thing there. There's a PCB mount socket. There's actually gold-plated header there that it goes into. Good signal integrity. They use more flexible wire to help that rotate. Nope, it's the normal stuff. Okay, that's the high voltage wire. That also seems very unflexible compared to what the more rubbery stuff that you see in other viewfinder and other high voltage situations. Connection is more wired onto this board, and the deflection, those two are on that board, and the other two go down to that board, which must be where that sync separator chip is. Yes, it's hiding under a capacitor there. I think that will be it. The Hitachi chip. There's an NEC chip there. Oh, that will be the comparator, won't it, for doing the superimposing that little line along the bottom of the tube, along the bottom of the picture. Wondering, do they print straight onto the uses O-rings? Get it to rotate quite well attached. Nope, it pulled off. Okay, yeah, those markings are on the front of the glass. So that's quite interesting. The ground is just by that happening to squish onto the top of the tube when that's pressed into there. Sony branded little flyback transformer to make all the voltages. Very tightly integrated, very compact. That cable's not quite long enough, makes it difficult to reassemble. Great, there's the viewfinder, and I think now we're done.